Fertilizer, the lifeblood of Africa's agriculture, holds the key to unlocking higher yields and ensuring food security. But to harness its potential, it has to be available efficiently, sustainably, and affordably.
Understanding how the fertilizer market space exists.
By working together, key stakeholders across Africa are collaborating to find solutions that strengthen our continent's food systems and address the complex challenges within the fertilizer value chain.
Being informed essentially translates into cost savings, essentially translates into more efficient distribution of fertilizer, and that is where we come in.
What we do at country level, we form what is called technical working groups, or essentially fertilizer technical working groups, or FTWG like we fondly like to call them. So these technical working groups are essentially the apex mechanism through which these countries discuss issues around fertilizer. They discuss any policy bottlenecks facing the movement and distribution of fertilizer. They also get to discuss how do we improve our sector as a country and as a region.
What are the gaps, the needs? How are these data been influencing your policies?
The Visualizing Insights on Fertilizer for African Agriculture VIFA program, a collaborative effort between Africa Fertilizer, Development Gateway, Wallace and Associates, and supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has brought together a diverse coalition, public and private institutions, civil society, and academia. By sharing insights and expertise, these stakeholders are working to build a robust fertilizer data ecosystem that empowers informed decision-making.
Apparent consumption is a calculation of production that has been produced in the country. This is the primary production, plus what was imported into the country, minus what was exported or re-exported out of the country, and then what was brought into the country but not for agricultural use.
For data that is not validated on the trade and apparent consumption, we still upload it so that people can make decisions early with the data. But what we do is we put an asterisk on it with a metadata that says that the data is not yet validated. And once we have validated this data, we put it on the dashboard as validated data so that people can use it confidently to make their analysis and decisions.
Africa Fertilizer has designed those technical working groups and has gotten it to almost like a well-oiled machine that runs by itself now at this point. The technical working groups are core to what data looks like at the country level. The interaction between the project and the validation that happens at the project level happens in the fertilizer technical working group, and that subsequently is just a question of more of user engagement and the conversations one-on-one.
The technical working groups themselves are the channel which we validate the statistics, because as Africa Fertilizer and as IFTC, we don't own any of this data. So the data is provided to us by various sources. We triangulate it, come up with a figure. But before we publish it and disseminate it widely, these technical working groups form the basis through which that data is validated. So from that technical working group, we are able to tell you with 105% certainty the actual figures on fertilizer for a given country.
But the FTWG's influence goes beyond data. Through regular gatherings, they pinpoint challenges and craft tailored solutions for the fertilizer sector. Their insights guide industry players in decision-making.
I've learned a lot about agriculture and data, which we are going to use as an organization to inform the agro-dealers and to advise the PET, that is the Presidential Economics and Transformation Secretariat, because we've been working with them for the last one and a half years. And we are going to use this data as an organization as well to sensitize the agro-dealers, to sensitize the farmers, and it has been really helpful to us.
The fertilizer technical working groups are at the heart of policy debates, shaping decisions that ripple through the entire fertilizer value chain. In Ethiopia, for instance, sub-Saharan Africa's second-largest fertilizer market, government oversight with centralized procurement reigns. Through the FTWG, stakeholders have been exploring market privatization to boost efficiency.
4, 3, 2, 1.
In Mozambique, The FTWG was instrumental in creating a comprehensive fertilizer dashboard, the nation's go-to source for reliable fertilizer data. It also bridged the gap between the government and private sector, fostering trust and collaboration in data sharing.
Before we came to this initiative, the public sector didn't have enough communication with the private sector and vice versa, meaning that they will only complain about the problems and they didn't have a forum to come together and harmonize their ideas.
Malawi's Fertilizer Technical Working Group emerged as a lifeline after the triple threat of COVID-19, geopolitical tensions, and currency wars strained the country's distribution chain. Through the FTWG, the country's procurement mechanism, the Affordable Inputs Program, receives real-time market intelligence to ensure timely fertilizer procurement. Nigeria's FTWG has emerged as a shining example, fueled by the dynamic collaboration of private sector partners.
This session brings out some of the insights to what is happening in this sector. Apart from looking at the numbers, what are the numbers telling us? So some, the engagements of analysis in how these numbers can give us insights and therefore direction. So I think it's been excellent, and my hope is to see how we can take this data or these sessions into analyzing and seeing what trends and insights that we're getting from this data as a ecosystem and not just individuals, so that we can try and move on as connected actors in the system as opposed to individual businesses. So I think we should do more of these sessions.
For MBS, we see any organization or agencies talking about data as very important agencies for government, and they mean well for the country, because we cannot plan without data. We can't make any intervention. We are talking about food security. We are talking about hunger in the country, and we don't have data to plan or to take decisions by the decision maker. So then what are we talking about? And that is why this meeting is very, very crucial.
The road to institutionalizing the FTWGs was, however, not without its bumps. In certain regions, due to deep-seated mistrust between public and private sectors, sharing vital fertilizer data was met with skepticism.
There are numerous challenges when it comes to data, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, where sharing data is not the best for most of the countries. So there are things that we've been able to do consistently since 2010 that now it has become something like a normal. Something like the Fertilizer Technical Working Group, where we sit down to validate the data. There are countries where we started, everybody will come with their data in their books, and then they'll be checking and telling you, oh, this is it, or this is not it, but they will not even share the data. But now we have evolved to the extent that the companies even share their data with us, depending on the country. They share their data with us to cross-check, or once we get the data from customs, we extract their company's data and send it to them to validate before even we meet for the Fertilizer Technical Working Group, so that it becomes easy, the processing and validation of the data.
Through strategic partnerships, including the use of non-disclosure agreements, data anonymization, and open dialogue, these hurdles were overcome. A culture of trust, transparency, and efficient data sharing emerged, laying the groundwork for informed decision-making through the FTWGs.
It has basically been quality of this data. How quality is this data? And because they now understand our methodology, that we not only collect data and supply them, but we send this data through a validation process. This process is what is really attracting the private sector to build sufficient trust. The public sector has also begun to build sufficient trust in our data.
As Africa continues to strengthen its agricultural sector, the Fertilizer Technical Working Groups remain indispensable. By bringing together diverse stakeholders and fostering collaboration, they are key to building a more resilient and efficient fertilizer value chain.
There is really an understanding that working together, will essentially ensure that the farmers are ultimately the beneficiaries of all these interventions. So the fertilizer technical working groups have sort of acted as a melting pot where all these discussions are had, because we have governments, we have the private sector coming in. We then get to deliberate the pros and cons of each approach. So through that mechanism, the technical working group, we are then able to sort of advance the course of a given country in one direction. And that is really paying off, especially in the VFA countries. We're seeing more and more engagements between the private sector and the government.
Africa Fertilizer and Partners Development Gateway, Wallace & Associates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation continue to support the fertilizer technical working groups that are the backbone of a collaborative effort to ensure that farmers who feed the continent have access to the fertilizers they need to nourish the soil and grow the future.